Alright, so part 2 of this video is basically going to be how to now draw your letters so that not only are they balanced, but they're also overlapping just slightly, because we want to make sure that our word is connected. Sometimes if our letters get too spaced out, it looks a little bit separated. So we want to make sure that our letters are touching just slightly and that one letter is over top of the next letter. So here's how we're going to do this. Now that you have your boxes, we want to make sure, okay, so I'm doing my first name, so if it helps, you can actually write this out so that you know where to put each letter. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to take the letter B, okay, and I'm going to look at my reference picture. I'll kind of set it off here to the side. And I'm going to start sketching out the B. And what I want to do is I actually want to sketch the B so that it's slightly bigger than the box. Alright, so it's actually going to help me if it's bigger, because if it's slightly bigger than the box, then it's going to allow me to overlap a lot easier. And when I go to do my next letter, if I draw the R slightly bigger than its box, okay, so now I got to go to R. When I do that, it's actually naturally just going to overlap. Okay, so it's pretty simple. So once I get my first two letters done, I'll kind of explain how this is going to look. So I have my B and I have the R. And so what I'm going to do is when I finish all my letters, and I'm going to stop here just for the sake of time, but when I finish all my letters, I'm going to go in and I'm going to take my eraser and I'm going to make sure that the left letter, okay, you could do this however you want, but it usually looks better if you keep it in order. I want to make the B in front of the R, and I'm going to make the R in front of the I. Now I don't have the I drawn yet, but you'll get the point. So I'm going to make sure if the B is in front of the R, all I need to do is take my pencil and erase the R that goes into the letter B. So you see how we have a little bit of R in the B here? Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and erase that. And that's going to make it look like the B is covering up the R. Alright, I'll go ahead and draw the I really quick just to show you what that would look like. So I would sketch out my letter I. Slightly bigger than the box. Notice I'm just like lightly sketching. I'm eventually going to go over it with an eraser. So anything inside the R now, because I want the R to be in front of the I, I'm going to erase that. Now it looks like the R is in front of the I. So when I go to use my Sharpie, remember Sharpie's optional. If you don't have a Sharpie, what I would do is I would just go in and make sure that all your lines are nice and clean. You can erase all your sketch marks. Alright, so I can erase all this stuff that I don't need. And eventually I want to get it to where it's just simply my name. If you do have a Sharpie, you're going to want to make sure that you take your time, because obviously this is permanent now. And you're going to go in and outline your whole name. Okay, one little trick is you can shift your paper around. Okay, try to make all your lines nice and smooth. I always like to rest my palm on the table and then just drag it, and I always go in the same direction, and it actually helps me keep my lines nice and straight. Alright, so there's my letter B. Now one thing that I need to be careful of is when I'm drawing my lines for the R, I want to make sure that I stop when I get to the B, because if I continue drawing into the B, it's going to look really funny. So I want to make sure that I avoid that. So I'm going to trace this whole thing. If you make a mistake with a Sharpie, it's okay. A lot of times you don't need to start over. You're more than welcome to try again, but sometimes that just takes a little bit too much time. If you make a little mistake, what I always recommend doing is just trying to roll with it. Not everything's going to be perfect. You just kind of got to make it work. There's my R. And then the last one that I'll do really quick is the I. Want to make sure that all my lines are nice and clean. This is going to affect my craftsmanship grade. Okay, so there we go. Now I would go and do my A so that it's slightly bigger than the box for A, and then I would do the N. And what you'll notice is you should have the same amount of space on the bottom of your name that you do on the top. You should also have the same amount of space on the left side of your name that you do on the right. And that means that it's balanced. Okay? Lastly, what you'll do is once you get all the Sharpie done, if you are going to do the Sharpie route, you can actually erase right over your Sharpie. It's not going to go anywhere. It's permanent. And you're going to get rid of all the pencil. And so it's nice and clean. Some of my family calls me Bri, actually. So it's nice and clean, and that is the first stage of your final draft. Once you get your entire drawing finished, then you can work on your drop shadow. I would recommend doing that with a pencil. Once you finish your drop shadow, you can start working on your special effects. If you like the drips, you can add some drips. If you like the flames, you can add some flames. You do not need to do both. If you'd rather do a brick wall, I'm going to have a separate video up that shows you how to do a brick wall. And there's also there's a big variety of other types of special effects that you can put in your background as well. There's also things that you can do inside of your letters. So when you look up graffiti, not only should you look up the fonts, but you should also look up some actual graffiti murals and see what some of those artists are doing for the backgrounds of their artwork. Alright, so hopefully that helps. I hope I'm not forgetting anything. Just make sure that you take your time, especially with the Sharpies. Know that mistakes are okay, and you just have to work your way through them. Alright, have fun.